Hey again, everybody. It's Ron at Becoming Enlightened Together. So this is the second of three readings I intended doing today, and I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it, so I'm not as long-winded about this particular one. So we're going to start right off the bat with the weekly energy, and the overall weekly energy is that of I saw in the reverse. Now in the upright, as we saw last week, because it's exactly the same rune that we had as the overall energy last week, but last week it was in the upright. And upright, it talks about the best, you know, course of action for you is non-action, to do nothing. Save, go within, meditate, seek clarity, however that is for you. Wait your answers, and trust your intuition. That's basically what it means. This week, it's in the reverse. So what they're saying is you had a whole week of reflection and your time to research and evaluate the information and so on and so forth. But now you've been given that information, that knowledge, that clarity. It's time to act. And as we saw in the previous reading, the one I just posted, that action entailed you defending your position. But it could also mean you defending yourself, you defending others around you, defending a position that you may hold in an arena of some type, politically or whatever the case may be. I'm not feeling that, but it could be. Or defending some other type of position that you have. Maybe you're having a disagreement with somebody, on a certain subject or what have you, regardless of what the actual subject is. You are being basically instructed to defend yourself, okay? Some people, especially within the collective, they are a little bit more forgiving. They are a little bit more long-suffering. Generally, they've learned their lessons, or they're learning their lessons. I mean, we're all still, to the day that we die, learning, so that never stops. I hope it's not something that you think that you're just going to put aside once you get to a certain point. Once you start, to fail to continue on this journey, you start to stagnate. Well, that's literally what atrophy is in the beginning of, if you will, decay and all those types of things start to set in. You lose your continuity, you lose your forward momentum, you lose perhaps some of your gifts. And in some cases, we've already seen that. Some of these people are pretending to be one thing, and in reality, it's nothing less than a mask. I'll just leave it at that. We've talked about masks, I don't even know how many times of the last year. So we've seen that, and of course, we're generally speaking about those who we refer to as either the cross-watcher or the karmics, typically. And by karmic, I don't mean that they're evil and this, that, and the other thing, or whatever you may attach to that label. It's just simply a way of distinguishing the collective, those who are taking this spiritual journey seriously, and they really are trying to do the very best they can and trying to make the world a better place before they leave it than it was when they got here. For the other people, they're only worried about making the world a better place for themselves. In other words, they are still in the mindset of he who has the most toys at the end wins. So they're walking, if you will, the right-hand path. Now, by right-hand path, or I should say the right pillar, of the three pillars I speak of in terms of Rosicrucianism and all that. Whereas the left one may represent the religious zealotry with no thought whatsoever of materialism, and the other one is all about materialism with no thought of their spiritual. We're looking for that middle pillar, and just like in the tree, the Sefer of life in Kabbalism, the middle pillar is the one that goes all the way to the heavens, so to speak. Okay, the other two don't get there. Okay, so balance is very, very important, and we see that also in the universe. The universe has its own way of balancing things out, whether it's justice, no matter what it is, it will find a way. Okay. All right, so that's basically what the overall energy for the week is. It's that of I saw, and it's reversed. So what that's really telling us is it's time to act. And again, we saw that the time to act may include standing your position. Now, our past energy for this particular reading is that of Rado. Okay? And Rado in the upright, it talks about movement with purpose. Okay? So it doesn't mean something like it's not wandering, it's not rushing forward indiscriminately without thinking. It's basically an aligned journey of some kind. Okay? It's the blessed journey, is another way that it's referred to oftentimes. So it's motion with direction. It's traveling. It's order. It's basically a means of getting from point A to point B, whether it's a horse or, whatever the case may be. It's relocating somewhere, maybe a vacation. It's talking about maybe an evolution in terms of your own, inner being and so on, or physical well-being. It could be, mental, physical, spiritual. Doesn't matter. It's just a movement forward, okay, with purpose again. And it's talking about order in general. It's seeing the right move to make and deciding upon it. And it's also reminding us about the rhythms of life in general. Everything is cyclical. Everything runs on, booms and busts, or, peaks and valleys kind of a thing. And we see it, like I said, echoed everywhere in science, in the laws of physics and all of that, as well as we see it in our day-to-day life if we're really paying attention. So that was the past energy. Now, our present energy is that of Tiwas. And this is the god Tyre's rune. Now, Tyre is, he was a god that, I guess if you wanted to lump sum him, he's called the god of war, but they're all gods and goddesses of war. So you can't just say that and just walk away like you made some kind of headway, or you said something earth-shattering or whatever. But he basically encompasses all of the leadership traits: bearing, courage, dependability, decisiveness, endurance, enthusiasm, initiative, integrity, justice, knowledge, loyalty, tact, and selfishness. All 14 leadership traits. He talks about leadership abilities and everything else, knowing oneself, your strengths and weaknesses, and so on. It talks about all of those kinds of attributes. He didn't play with magic when it came to his battle and warfare and everything else. He just did things because he was in the right. And, when you have that behind you, it's almost an inexhaustible supply of, I guess you could say, moral energy that propels you forward and allows you to win. And I'm not talking about in some kind of zealot kind of a way, although there are some parallels there. No, I'm talking about genuinely knowing that what you're doing is for the greater good, or, it could be for your greater good, whatever the case may be. But it's tempered. It's not, just going crazy, kill them all like God, sort them out kind of mentality. No, that's not what I mean at all. So I exclude the Catholic Church in my description here completely. And if you're Catholic, I don't mean to bust on your religion. It's not that I'm at all, discriminating about anybody's particular faith. I'm just talking about that organization, that corporation known as the Vatican. When you're talking about spirituality or, religion, either way, it's a personal journey. You came into this world alone. You're going to leave this world alone. You're going to stand before your higher self, before, God, the universe, whatever the case may be someday, and you'll have to give account, not what Mary did to you or John did to you or said about you or whatever the case may be. You're only, going to have to give an account for the things that came out of your mouth, the things that you decided to do or didn't do, okay? So, and then, of course, I'm not saying you're going to go to hell. I mean, depending on who and what you've done, that'll depend on your overall karma and everything else. And maybe in severe cases, of course, that could lead to some form of definite incarceration from a spiritual standpoint, maybe even a substantial karmic debt that you're going to have to pay back, not just in one, but maybe even multiple lives. So, I mean, you may think that the cost is worth it now, get what you want now, but you'll be paying for it in future lives. And if you could project yourself into those future lives, if you basically have any empathy, you know how to do that. Put yourself in other people's shoes. Put yourself in your own shoes, But again, it comes down to somebody's beliefs and faiths and everything else. So I digress. Now, the God Tire, basically, this rune is in the upright, like I stated. So it's basically doing what's right, even if it costs you. Okay? So it's initiative. Seeing something that needs to be done and not being, or waiting for somebody to tell you to do it. You do it because it's right. That kind of a thing. Sometimes doing the right thing is going to come at a cost. Telling the truth sometimes carries a penalty. And some, you can look back in the, history in the past, and many people have given their lives to do what was right, or what they believed was right in their mind. Okay? So, basically what we're talking about in this case, there are no shortcuts or trickery. It's basically duty. It's doing what's right because it needs to be done. It has to be done. Should be done. Okay. So basically what we're talking about here also is somebody who's willing to sacrifice, somebody who's courageous, somebody who believes in justice and honor, chivalry of some kind. It talks about somebody who has, again, leadership abilities, authority, somebody who's rational, somebody, again, who knows their own strengths, knows the strengths of those that may be working alongside them or for them, somebody who is capable of self-sacrifice. I'm not talking martyrdom, but of course that, has in some cases perhaps a place as well. I don't know. I mean, no greater love there is than this, to, lay down your life for a friend, that kind of a thing. I mean, don't take it out of context, though. But I'm saying we see these types of things in warfare, and we're seeing these kinds of things today, like in Gaza, where, you see a small child throwing rocks at a friggin' M1A1 Abrams tank because they don't have any other means of fighting back, but they don't back down. That's a picture that is just, I guess you could say, seared into my mind when I saw that. And that's courage. Of course he couldn't win. He's not even going to make a point, really, except that the photography captured that. And now it lays in the hearts of people who also feel that, irregardless of the monster, the behemoth that rules over us, or them in this case, the fighting spirit is always present. And for me, I have nothing but the most amount of admiration and respect for that. Although I would like to bring attention to it so that hopefully, just from a humanitarian standpoint, we can stop the genocide that's going on over there, so it's not just another footnote in history like, we saw in Cambodia under Pol Pot, or in China, after Chiang Kai-shek was removed. That was created by us, by the way. That's why communist China is what it is today. Or what we've seen in Russia, after, of course, the Khazars did their thing, and anywhere between 30 to 60 million of their own people were murdered. And, of course, the biggest genocide was happening here in America, where what we did to the indigenous tribes. We just have to see it for what it is, not what we want it to be or what we want to believe. Okay? And we can only do that through truth, and to have really, a mental, a physical, and a spiritual foundation, hopefully built upon that truth. Okay. All right. So, what are our obstacles and challenges for this reading? Well, it's that of Perthro. Let's see if you can see that. These pink stones are hard to see. Now, if you look at it this way, it's supposed to mimic something like a dice cup or a lot cup, something like that. And that's more or less what Perthro means ordinarily in the upright. It's basically the the dice or the lot still in the cup. It's the evidence unseen yet. They haven't been cast yet, kind of a thing. It's basically, you know, it's the mystery before the revealing of something. However, this particular lot is in the reverse, so it means quite the opposite. It's secrets revealed, unexpected results as a, a direct relation to that revealing. Disloyalty is part of that, probably, that's being discovered. Addictions are also being discovered. Stagnation and loneliness. Now, what Perthrow is telling us in terms of the obstacles and challenges is that the revealing that we've talked about both in the last reading and we're seeing again in this reading, that information could affect the person who this information is being, I guess you could say, let out about. So there could be quite a bit of information that people have been trying desperately to hide or keep from being, brought out into the open. But as I stated in the last reading, and probably many times over the last year or so, those things which are done in secret are going to be revealed at some point. Okay? And we're seeing, again, these kinds of things echoed within the astrological forecasts and what's happening with the retrograde movements and all of these planetary alignments and movements and, things of that nature. We can also see it in certain amounts of numerology. So, I guess it's in the eye of the beholder where you stand in this particular reading, whether you are the one who is having your dirty laundry basically shown to the world, or perhaps you're finding out about somebody else's dirty laundry coming out. Okay. Now, those in the collective may already have intuitive understandings and gleanings into what is going on with certain people in their life that probably fall under the banner of the karmics, so to speak. You may already know these things. They don't know that you know, but you know. Again, I relate to that as well. So, again, this week is telling us to act, and the action involves standing your ground. So, this could also insinuate, possibly, that somebody's being wrongly accused of this, that, or the other thing. Or it could be involving some type of, family issue, whether it's a marriage, some type of other relationship, friendship, whatever, where you're finding out that those who you would put trust in and so on and so forth are not the people that you thought they were. They were stabbing you in the back. They were slandering you behind your back. They were trying to hold you back, especially if you're in the collective. That's exactly what you can expect to happen. The minions, of the malevolent forces, whatever that actually looks like, are basically sent, in a sense, to hold you back. You're going to find it again and again. Once you become aware of this and you start to make headway in your journey, you're going to find that new people are going to come your way, or maybe old people are going to come your way out of the woodwork, and they are going to do everything in their power to create some form of a distraction or some type of a karmic loop they're trying to trap you in, so you will not move forward. It's imperative to the matrix that it's not revealed. Okay, so I'm just saying that they're going to fight every step of the way. You can expect the closer you get to the truth, the more distractions, the more, I guess you could say, actual attacks you're going to have to endure. Now, by that I don't necessarily mean you're going to be physically harmed or anything like that, but you have to be aware of it and deal with it however you do. I would say keep your spiritual hygiene. I would say that you could transmute that energy before you go to sleep and everything else. I mean, you can protect yourself however that looks for you individually, and you can send that energy back when it came. That way they can experience for themselves what it is that they tried to put upon you. The burdens that they wanted for you, they will start to experience, and it will go back. That energy, once it's released, has to go somewhere. So if it's not affecting you, and it doesn't have to unless you allow it to, that means it has to go back to its owner. And they can't do the same thing. They will wallow in that negative energy that they had for you. And it's not something necessarily for us to really rejoice about per se. You should pray for your enemies and things like that if you're of the, I guess you could say of any of the Abrahamic faiths, whether it's Islam or, Judaism or Christianity or any of the other subsections that come from those faiths. There's always, multiple branches that come off all of them. But, we should look after each other because we're all in this journey. So as much as we're able to do so, unless we're being literally attacked, and you have every right to defend yourself, however that looks, okay? So I'll tell you this, that most people that are in karmic energy, they think kindness is a weakness. They think that your tempered, stance on things, again, is for them easily manipulated. And in some cases, that's potentially true. I mean, that's a lesson that we all have to learn when we're in this journey, and we are at that point. Sometimes they do use your desire to do right and to do good against you. So be aware of that, okay? Not all people are worthy of your energy. There are literally psychic vampires, energy vampires that exist, and I'm not just talking about within the political arena or, many of the other areas that control our lives. I'm talking about people that are close to you, oftentimes, sometimes very close to you. So that's what they call the karmic relationship of some kind. It could be a spouse, it could be a child, it could be a parent or aunt, uncle, whatever the case may be. It could be somebody at work or, somebody that has some form of authority, perhaps, in your life. So just keep that in mind. All right, now under our help and advice, we have the rune of Lagos, and Lagos is in the upright, so that's very good. Okay. Now Lagos in the upright is that which is beneath the surface, such as rivers and lakes and streams. We can't see what's underneath that water. All we see is typically the surface, right? Your blood, emotions, your instincts, we can't see anything outside of what you're allowing outside of yourself, that kind of thing. It's basically not force, it's not structure, it's motion. That's what it is, okay? So it's movement of your emotions, movement of that water underneath, and whatever the case may be, movement of your blood. You can't see it, but it's flowing, right? Now, it's also basically an initiation. It's renewal, fertility, it's healing, it's psychic or occult abilities, it's the unknown in all things, like the deep, the hidden, the underworld kind of a thing. It also refers to basically success in both travel and acquisition. Okay, I know it doesn't seem related, but in terms of the energy, there are those who have made that connection. And I have not yet read every poem and writing in regards to Norse beliefs and their traditions to try to connect all the dots in regards to these runes, which would help me to be more, I guess you can say, connected with them, which is my end goal in a sense. That's how basically those who are shamans and so on, they become more closely tied to that higher dimension, that 5D plane. And there are other ways of doing it. There's multitudes of ways of doing it. Some people use psychedelics, and there's other ways, and every culture has their own preferred method in terms of their shaman practices, to reach that other realm, including the Norse. Okay, so Lagus is one of those runes you might use in its practice. Okay, that's what it's used for in terms of magical workings. Now, as far as our future outcome, what we see is that of Haglas. And Haglas also, where are you at? Haglas is also in the upright. Okay? Now, Haglas in the upright is basically chaos, but there's no villain involved. It's just natural, if you will, events that happen, such as, they often use like a storm destroying a crop, or something of that nature. You hope that that doesn't happen, but at times it does happen. Who's responsible for that? Well, I mean, you can often tie that to in a spiritual, um, light, if you will. The gods are angry at us, this, that, or the other thing. But it's really a victimless crime, so to speak. Nature does what nature does, and you're just at the wrong place at the wrong time, so to speak. But it's life, okay? The universe. It's saying this wasn't built to last, whatever this was. And it's the idea that adversity can lead to new possibilities, change, and growth. Again, we saw that earlier where it talks about basically, that without a certain amount of discomfort, you cannot grow. And this is echoing that sentiment to another level, so to speak. Okay? So it's chaos leading to new possibilities or order, or Ordo Chaos, as the Skull and Bones Secret Society out of Yale University, which both Bushes were very much involved with, as was President Taft and many CIA, NSA, those who were corporate, leaders and things like that are a part of. That's what's written on their wall inside of their it fucking escapes my mind. Mausoleum. Thank you. God, Ron. My mind just goes blank sometimes when this camera's on. I don't know what it is. But ordinarily, what I'm saying is that a certain amount of order naturally comes from what seems like chaos, whether it's an earthquake, a tidal wave, I mean, it seems tragic, and it often is. But something, for example, a means of, building better so that the next time an earthquake comes, less damage, less property damage, less, damage to the human beings that reside there. Or, in terms of tidal wave, they build, again, barriers that they can put out there close to the sea. You see them all over the place in the Indian Ocean. They have these huge, giant concrete, they look like, jacks. If you've ever seen kids when they're playing jacks and stuff like that, they look just like giant jacks, but they're made out of concrete. And they put tens of thousands of them out there off the shore. So they act as kind of like a break for the waves, the big waves. It doesn't stop something major like that, but it can actually prevent the total destruction that that particular type of a scenario could create. And that came about from previous, chaos. So, it's not the best example perhaps, but it just came to my mind because I seen it. I saw it in Okinawa. I see it all over the place, in places like that. So wherever they have, a lot of exposure to things like that, Hawaii, Japan, and of course any of the island nations out there in the Indian Ocean and those places where the Rim of Fire especially is active. All right, so that is our overall energy. And again, so we're seeing that all this stuff that's happening in either our lives or to people that we know of or know about, this is part of what they're having to face right now, that all their dirty laundry is being paraded around. They are no longer able to keep it secret. So who they really are is being revealed to everybody, or it will be very, very soon, according to what I'm seeing in the last couple of weeks. But the point is that, you know, most of those in the collective are dealing with this daily. They're dealing with their demons, so to speak. They're dealing with, you know, their inner work. They're trying to figure out the things that need some type of attention, and instead of pretending otherwise or ignoring it, they're really going within and they're dealing with those demons, so to speak. So, and yes, I believe that there are indeed some malevolent energies that are out there, and of course, it's cataloged in literally every single religion. Um, What they are, I can't say with 100% certainty. I mean, it's talked about even the oldest references that we have available, like the Sumerian cuneiform tablets and so on, all the way down to, our more modern times. So, within the Catholic Church, that still performs exorcisms to this day. It's not, and they always have to have a psychologist or psychiatrist with them so that they can, more or less discount those possible explanations before they're sanctioned to do those things. And some of the lead exorcists, I can't remember his name right now, but he also went on record about more evil in the Vatican than outside of it. So some of its greatest detractors are basically those within its own walls or that work for it. So, and I'm not just busting on, Catholicism. It's not the belief. I mean, it is still Christianity, and there's much good in Christianity, but there's also a lot of it that has been used against itself without it even knowing it, because they've given themselves over completely to it and haven't questioned it. So when this institution that even to this day is involved in many, many horrible things, including the way that it handles children and covers things up about those who are involved in those kinds of things. And what they have done in terms of, and it's not just Catholicism. We see some of those same things, of course, within Islam and many of the other Abrahamic faiths. And I would say Judaism very much so, but you're in danger when you start talking about it, because they have entire organizations and everything else set up so that they can sue you into silence or whatever the case may be, like the Anti-Defamation League. You can always tell who's involved by who you're not allowed to talk to. If you're not allowed, or talk about, I should say, if you're not allowed to talk about a group, a person, or an organization of any group or of any type, then you realize that they have more, if you will, hands in the cookie jar of your destiny, your fate, than you may have otherwise known about. They're calling the shots behind the scenes, or they have a big part in it anyways. So, and we see that all throughout history. Again, so what am I saying? Well, I guess that we're getting to the point where we know that action has to be taken. The action is basically standing your ground. For some of you out there, dirty laundry and everything else is about to be brought forth. There's no hiding it. You can't plead, beg, borrow. You can't bribe your way out of this anymore or any of those kinds of things. It's happening. And you either take your comeuppance, you show some measure of courage in this, or you continue to be the coward, hide behind your lies, continue to make more lies to cover up your previous lies, and you're going to find yourself, in a tenfold worse position than you otherwise would have been. And if you simply, accepted, your comeuppance, the things that you did. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, karma. It's just a law of the universe. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to accept it. But I'm telling you, it's very easy to prove when you start looking at all the evidence for it. You think that you're going to get away with this forever, it's just not going to happen. And I'm only referring to one or however many people, cross-watcher, side of the fence, who that may pertain to. Or perhaps, you and the collective or whatever have been toying around back and forth, on both sides of the line of what is right and what isn't. I don't know, some people think that because they can do it, they should do it, Well, it brings me some kind of joy, blah, 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 but they're not really thinking about that process. They're thinking only about what gives them that instantaneous, dopamine fix or adrenaline rush or, I don't know, sexual climax, whatever the case may be. That sense of euphoria, whatever, for however long that lasts. But in the end, there is, there's always, something that you're going to have to give back for something that you've taken. Sacrifice, or if you will, balance, is always going to find you. Karma is always going to find you. So you don't think that you have to live in a moral sense. That's fine. Do what you want. And of course, your comeuppings will come to you quicker than others, depending on whether you're actually hurting other people in the process of your decision. If your decision does, in fact, include involving other people in whatever means that may be, and you're not at all considering the outcome to those other people or parties or whatever the case may be, then your karma may come more severely and more quickly. And you will learn that lesson. If you choose not to learn it on your own, you're going to be sat down in a corner and you are going to get scolded. You're going to wish, trust me, that you took the time to really evaluate and do the right thing. Okay. Well, this is turning out to be a long talk, and I know that people don't want to hear me ramble on, and I'm not trying to, sequester your undying allegiance, or I'm not trying to tell you to do what I say or anything like that. I'm just trying to get you to see perhaps another, perspective, that maybe you haven't considered yet or taken the time to really consider. Alright, so with that being said, I, as always, wish you all the very best out there. Stay victorious, and in the future, I'll see some of you at least in Valhalla. Take care. Bye-bye.